Welcome to the Cabral House Call. I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor, and today we're going to answer your questions. So the first question today is, if you could suggest one diet change to help your thyroid, what would it be? Okay, really good question. This is actually really important because with autoimmune diseases, or let's call this more like low thyroid to Hashimoto's or something like that, one of the top things that's typically recommended is eliminating goitrogens or goitrogenic foods like raw kale. It's not a recommendation I typically make. It is an issue for people who are prone to goiters or get into goiter, but not one that the majority of the population really has to worry about. And I've seen this clinically in my practice for a number of years now. What I would recommend though, the number one thing above the most common food sensitivities would be eliminating gluten. There's a lot of research behind this. You can welcome to the research yourself, but it's out there, and I've seen it very predominant and prevalent in my practice, and that is eliminating gluten and all things gluten or wheat based. The reason is the molecular structure of gluten is too similar to basically the thyroid uptakes it and actually thinks of it almost as thyroid hormone. Now that can be an issue when the actual immune system may be looking to eliminate or attack this gluten strand that may be floating around in your bloodstream. So that could potentially lead to its own autoimmune based reaction, and if that structure or that strain is actually attached to or near the thyroid itself, could cause an actual immune based reaction on the thyroid gland itself. So to make a long story short, simply eliminate gluten from your diet. It is the number one thing you can do with thyroid based issues, and only have it as a cheat meal. Next question. All right, is there ever time you should take antibiotics over natural supplements? So really good question. You know, as I'm a true naturopath, so even beyond like naturopathic doctor, I consider myself more of a naturopath, kind of a traditional naturopath as well, who understands that we were literally given everything we need, and especially now through functional medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, all these different things, to treat the majority of health issues that we do have. But I won't go so far as to say that there is never a time or a need or a place for antibiotic use. There is. I believe that would be ignorant on my part and actually dangerous to never say that anyone should never take antibiotics. I believe that for the most part, antibiotic use is almost criminal. It's used way too frequently, and for issues and sicknesses that it has no business being used for, and in the end only causes more issues. My initial health issues came from being given antibiotics. So this is a very tender subject for me. I was given antibiotics and put on them for a number of years. I'll talk more about that in the future. We won't get into it in this quick Q&A. But that ultimately led to the destruction of my immune system. And so you have to be very careful when you do take antibiotics. But when should it be used? In my opinion, and what I would recommend for my own family, friends, and the people that I care for in my practice, would be for life-threatening based situations. If you have a illness, sickness, whatever it might be that could cause you to lose your life because of it, take antibiotics. Now, what could that be? A couple of examples might be some type of staph infection that moves quickly, of course. It could be pneumonia, where that you're hospitalized. It's basically bilateral pneumonia or something like that that is causing you to be in a really hard position. Those are the times that you would take antibiotics. Do you take antibiotics for a common cold? Absolutely not. For a virus? No. For even sinus infections, it's always your choice. You do what's best for you, you do what's best for your family. But for the majority of these things, there's absolutely no need to use antibiotics because there are natural remedies that aren't going to cause the bacterial imbalances that will happen in your intestinal flora from taking these things. Heart palpitations, arrhythmias, look into it. All of these things can be caused by antibiotic use. And never mind the fact that antibiotics can be even less effective because we've been giving them out for so many different things that they should never have been given out for. So what's going to happen, and it's already happening now, there's things called superbugs that our antibiotics are defenseless against, so we can't even use. So use them if it's life-saving, don't if it's not. All right, so great question. What can you take while taking antibiotics to kind of counter the effects of antibiotics or help you in the same rate? So the research has been out there for a number of years, but for whatever reason, a lot of physicians just either haven't seen it, haven't been given the research, or whatever reason. But Saccharomyces boulardii has been told for a number of years to be taken while taking antibiotics. Why would you take Saccharomyces boulardii? And we'll link that up as well because it's a hard one to spell. So simply, Saccharomyces boulardii is a beneficial strain of yeast. That means when you're taking antibiotics, it typically wipes out a lot of good bacteria, allows for the overgrowth or proliferation of candida or yeast overgrowth in the intestines. By taking Saccharomyces boulardii, it eliminates your likelihood for overgrowing negative forms of yeast. So Saccharomyces boulardii as a beneficial form will be used as a placeholder before you can get in those good probiotics to take their place. So you take Saccharomyces boulardii when you are taking antibiotics. Typically you take them 4 to 6 hours away from your antibiotic dosage if possible, 2 times a day, maybe 3 times a day. 5 to 10 billion at a time, and then you're going to take that for about another 3 to 4 weeks after your antibiotics are done. When your antibiotics are done, then you're going to move into a nice, well-rounded, full-spectrum probiotic. Typically after antibiotic use, we are looking to use something like orthobiotic or maybe even just lactobacillus-based strains. We'll link that up. The nice thing about orthobiotic by Orthomolecular Medicine, and again, we don't have an affiliation with them specifically, it's a nice one. The reason is it's a full-spectrum strain. It's 50 billion probiotic. You're taking that right in the morning when you wake up and then right before bed, away from food. It also contains Saccharomyces boulardii, so it's kind of like one probiotic that even contains Saccharomyces boulardii, and you hardly ever see that. So there's a bunch of great brands. Clara Labs is fantastic, Thorne's good, Orthomolecular Medicine is just the one that we're talking about right now. So if you do that, it's going to help block out the potential candida overgrowth and then replace with more probiotics. We just don't use probiotics during antibiotic use. Yes, you can, but they're going to be killed as well. So save your money, use them for afterwards. Just use Saccharomyces boulardii while you're taking the antibiotics. Hopefully that answered your question. And of course, if there are follow-ups to that, let us know. We'll answer those as well. And we'll be back real soon with more episodes of the Cabral House Call.